To all those people watching, I'd like to remind everyone that this video is not made for kids. It's for older fans and adults. Enjoy the fucking video! 7101 had returned from the works after a failed ejector. He felt sad for he had thought that he had made a bad impression towards Sir Charles Topham Hatt. "Sir, I'm sorry," he pleaded unhappily. "Please give me another chance." "There's nothing for you to be sorry about, 7101, smiled Sir Charles. "I'll be giving you another chance since the summer bank holiday is coming up soon, and we're going to need an extra pair of wheels to move passengers out of here to their destinations. Besides," he added, "a failed ejector could happen to any engine." "Henry told me that as well," chuckled 7101, and so did Sir Charles. "Now, I have other important matters to attend to, so cheerio for now, 7101. Later the engines were told about 7101. They were delighted since he had stood up for them against D199 when he and 7101 came to the island on trial. James, however, wasn't pleased that 7101 was given another chance. "Why on earth would the fat controller keep a diesel on this railway?" he seethed. "Disgraceful!" "It's not disgraceful," retorted Henry. 7101 is a kind diesel, James, like Burko, Rusty, Daisy, and Mavis. "Those four are a rare breed, Henry," replied James. "But most diesels, if not all of them, are terrible, noisy, smelly, foul things." "Henry and I have moved on from the likes of that devious diesel, James. It's time that you should too," replied Gordon. "Diesels are different to our steam engines, but they are still useful engines regardless." "Pah!" scoffed James. "You'll soon see," replied Gordon. If you ever visit the island of Sodor and are interested in the stories from the various railways, then you should visit the Railway Archives. It's a treasure trove of stories over the years with all of the engines across the island of Sodor, big or small. Let's take a look at all the stories that are a blast from the past for the engines of Sodor. The summer bank holiday was a busy time of year. Every last Monday of August, people flocked to places to spend their day off, and for the children, this is their last day of the summer holidays before they have to go back to school for the year in the autumn. It was hard work for the engines, but they had managed. They love the summer period, but often when the weather is dry, they hate to see line-side fires. With the extra trains, the engines had to work twice as hard, and with that there's a fear of hot embers shooting out of the engines as funnels and landing on the dry grass causing a fire. Thankfully, most embers are all caught by a screen, either underneath the engines or in the funnel, which is called a spark arrestor. But sometimes, some hot embers could sneak out of the screen and onto the grass. The area that often get these fires was Gordon's Hill. Sir Charles was glad to see the spark arrestor working, but he was still worried about the chance of a line-side fire. On the day before the bank holiday, he came to see his engines at Tidmouth. "I'm pleased that the spark arrestor is working for you all, but I received some calls today about some fires on the line side. Thankfully, it didn't turn into a big fire thanks to our fire service. But in order to keep these risks from happening again, I'll be bringing in some diesels to help you assist your trains on the heaviest gradients," he declared. "Diesels?" James fumed. "Why do we have to work with them?" The other engines groaned, and so did Sir Charles. "James, we have resident diesels here, and they are proven to be useful like you." "But sir, That's enough, James. I made the decision, and it's final," snapped Sir Charles. James subsided in silence, saying nothing else to annoy Sir Charles even further. As he walked away, James muttered, "I won't have any smelly diesels on my trains." Sir Charles was right about the next day. It was busy. Lots of people were standing on the platform waiting for their trains. The mainland diesels came to help. Even Burko and Bear were helping out. The engines were wary at first towards the mainland diesels, but after getting to know them, they could see that they were nice, kind, and respectful towards the steam engines, and helped them out on the heavy grades. But James, as usual, remained doubtful. They may look nice, but you know deep down they are terrible, he muttered to himself. Now, James, said his driver, are you sure you can manage this train without a diesel?
Yes, I will, he snapped. I said it 100 times before, driver. I don't need a smelly diesel on the back of my train, including that 7101. I don't trust him either.
Suit yourself, replied the driver, and he climbed back into the cab. James was pleased, and after the guard blew his whistle, he puffed away with a heavy train. They soon came towards Gordon's Hill, and James snorted up the slope. I can do it! I can do it! He puffed. I don't need a diesel! I don't need a diesel! Clouds of smoke and steam poured from his funnel. The embers, though, were getting caught in the spark arrestor. Who needs a diesel? I got my spark arrestor! He puffed proudly. But unbeknownst to him or his crew, one or two embers snuck through the screen and flew out of his funnel and landed on the dry grass. James made it to the top and smugly puffed down the hill, feeling pleased. Later, James was making his way back to Tidmouth on his return journey when a signal was placed at danger. His driver stopped the train. Bother! What's the matter? Huffed James crossly. The signalman came towards him. There's been a line-side fire at Gordon's Hill, and no trains can cross until it's out. I'll let you know if there are any updates. When the fire was under control and stopped, James puffed crossly into the station. 10 minutes late. Who caused that line-side fire? Who? Yes, James. Who had caused that line-side fire? Said a well-known voice. Yes, sir? Asked James. I know that the fire was started by you, and it's all because you refused assistance from diesels. On your next train, James, 7101 will be helping you. He has been really useful today, and I think he will do good for you. James wanted to retort, but he knew that Sir Charles had made up his mind, and there was nothing he could do. What in blazes is that noise? Oh, sorry, that's my engine. It gives off a roar. Phew, keep those fumes away from me, James huffed. 7101 just rolled his eyes and made his way silently to the rear of James's train. I don't see the need for him. He'll just laze about adding more weight to my train, moaned James. Quit your moaning, James, replied the driver crossly. The guard blew his whistle and James and Bear rolled away. Bear gave James a push, and the red engine could feel the velocity of himself moving out of the station. Don't push that hard, James snapped to 7101. I'm not a truck, you know. Sorry for helping, muttered 7101. When they were out on the open line, James could feel the drag of the heavy coaches behind him. Come on, 7101, where's that roar of yours? Called James. 7101 didn't reply. He was only needed to help James and the others to go over Gordon's Hill, and because of the flatness of the line, his help wasn't needed. Lazy thing, James huffed. At Gordon's Hill, one of the mainland diesels had failed as they rolled up the slope. Henry had to work very hard hauling the heavy train, and like James, some hot embers flew out of his funnel as they snuck through the screen and landed on the dry grass without him knowing. As they came to the top, the hot embers began to burn the dry grass again. Just then, James and 7101 made their way through Edward Station. Alright, James, this is where my help will come in, called 7101. But James replied, No, I can do it without you.
but as they rounded a bend, James could see the smoke that was left behind by Henry. James gasped and his driver cut off steam. "Help! Help!" James cried as they neared the fire. Then James felt himself being pushed. It was 7101, and he gave an almighty roar of his engine as he pushed James and the heavy train up the hill. James was surprised. With James not making too much steam, he found that no hot embers were flying out of his funnel. And with 7101 doing all the hard work, he glided past the burning bush much faster than Henry could on his own. When they came to the station at the end of the line, James praised 7101. "You were wonderful going up that hill, and you gave out a mighty roar too. You almost sound like a bear." "Bear?" 7101 asked. "What's a bear?" "It's an animal," replied James. "Driver says that there used to be some living here a very long time ago, but they don't now. But he saw some in a zoo in London on the mainland." Throughout the day, James and 7101 worked together taking passengers. However, James started to call him Bear. And even after the bank holiday, everyone started to call him that. It started off as a tease at first because of his growls, and soon it became his name after he became an official member of the NWR. "Welcome to the Northwestern Railway, Bear," James declared. All the engines whistled in cheers and delight. Bear was happy. Having a name means you truly belong, he thought. James still doesn't trust Diesels, but he knows that like Daisy, Boko, Mavis and Rusty, he would trust Bear because of how useful he is, just like him as a steam engine.